Right, we're good to go, man. Simon, you're back. Thanks for joining me on the pod once again.
Yeah, thank you. It works out well that I'm on your side of the world this time.
Oh man, the logistics of this were so much easier. Except today when I was like, oh yeah, 4:30, and then I was like, oh shit, that's 4:30, like my time. That's when I messaged you. So
It's still at tune.
almost mucked up the logistics still, but not quite.
Yeah, only one hour difference.
Yeah, exactly. How is France treating you, man? You've been there for what, maybe 5 or 6 days?
Yeah, I think flew in on what's today? Tuesday.
Yeah,
Yeah, I must have got here Saturday. So yeah, a few days.
yeah,
Jet lag's still pretty gnarly. Just been waking up
yeah,
at 3 a.m. for the last few mornings
yeah.
for whatever reason. Um, yeah, that means it's 1 p.m. in New Zealand, so it doesn't even make sense anyway.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, but awesome. For epic runs so far. Trying not to get too carried away. I think I'll have tomorrow off the legs. Otherwise, yeah, it's starting to get close to UTMB.
Yeah. You were like climbing some mountain that was it the day that you got there? Was it the day after you were at like 1,200 meters or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just headed out and I tried to find a flat little loop, but they just don't exist around here.
A flat loop?
Yeah.
Was there nothing like, surely there's something like around the lake or something? Did you say, oh, that hill isn't quite as tall as that mountain, so that's kind of flat? Is that what the thinking
Yeah,
was?
well, and Annecy Lake's sort of about 30 k's away from here, so I'm like 30
Ah, okay.
k's up in the mountains a bit more, in a little town called Saint Jean de Sixt.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, but so many awesome trails, just literally a couple of k's from the door.
Yeah, those trails that you've hit so far, like obviously being a little bit of a taster, how do they compare to what you were doing back home for your training?
Yeah, well, I mean, back home you just can't get the elevation.
Mm,
I mean, I was literally training on one main climb, which is about a 40-minute drive from home. It was decent. It was like 1,000 meters elevation per time,
yeah.
but yeah, a lot different underfoot. Here is a lot rockier, and quite a bit more technical as well.
Yeah, that's like that. What was that descent you did today? They look gnarly. You were saying like 1,200 meters and like 2.5K or something like that.
Yeah. I did this loop, climbed up to just over 2,500 meters. Quite a long, steady climb, but then yeah, coming down the other side was just literally you drop the full height in about 3 k's.
Man, that's
Yeah,
hectic. Your ears would almost be popping. You're like dropping altitude so quickly doing that.
yeah, wasn't too fast today.
Yeah, yeah. So, in terms of your UTMB prep, how does something like this compare to the other things you've done? Obviously, something like Ultraman, you're also swimming and biking, but maybe something like your 24-hour track event that you did recently. How does prepping for a 24 hours running around a 400-meter track compare to prepping for, what is it, like 170 Ks with like, is it 10,000 meters of elevation gain? I think it is, right?
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I did the 24-hour track, New Zealand champs, that was I think it was about 12 weeks ago now. Um, Obviously, I knew I was racing UTMB for the last year or so. The track sort of just popped up as an opportunity, timing wise, sort of worked well. My idea of just building a big endurance base, of some flat running before I headed into the hill block before UTMB. So I sort of probably had about a 6 week block of specific track work before the 24 hours. I mean, I had a decent amount of endurance off last year's adventures, but then, yeah, just had always been quite intrigued with the track 24 hours.
Just seemed
So,
like
yeah,
heaps of
just
fun to you, just running around the track.
fun probably wouldn't be the best way to sum it up, but the
Yeah.
challenge, yeah, it was just intriguing, seeing how many laps you can do when you've just, yeah, pretty much you got one full day to go as far as you can.
Mm.
That
And what
was,
one component of that, like why it would make sense for doing something like you're doing now, is it sort of just the amount of time you're spending on feet, Would you say that's like a transferable thing, like having to run through the night, like spending 20 plus hours on your feet? Is that kind of one thing that transfers from the track to something like the UTMB?
Um, it probably won't transfer too well. Just the general, I think, aerobic conditioning, like fitness, and a little bit of that mental component of
Mm,
pushing through some harder stuff. But I guess because it was 12 weeks away from UTMB, that was just the general aerobic conditioning, and then as we get closer to the event, it gets a bit more specific with the type of terrain and elevation that I'll be needing to do at UTMB.
yeah, I haven't actually chatted to you too much since you did the track national champs. How did it compare to, I don't know, your expectations of it? Was it easier, harder? Was it more physically demanding? Like, how did it compare to what you thought it was going to be like?
Yeah, it was probably more physically and less mentally demanding than I thought. Like you think
Hmm.
running around a track's going to get pretty mentally challenging, but the physical side kicks in like around 8 hours. Like because you're just on that flat terrain, all your muscles are pretty smashed. 8 hours, 80 or 90 k's in, and then you've still got 16 hours of running to go. Um, so the challenge of running around the track was pretty low on the challenge list when you're at that point.
Yeah.
Just overriding yourself to carry on the whole time was more of the effort because your quads were
Yeah.
literally smashed and you still had 16 hours of running to go.
2/3 to go still.
Mm.
Would you say that that flat running is sort of more likely to produce an injury than something like trail running for that distance of that
Um,
time?
I guess because I'd done the preparation, I'd say if you went out and ran 24 hours on the track with no training, then yeah, you've probably run into some issues.
Yeah.
And a lot of people did pull up during the race with, hip flexors, quads, and that sort of thing because it's pretty unrelenting for obviously for 24 hours. And there's no change in gait or stride
Mm,
unless you're stopping for a bit of a walk or can stretch out. But yeah, I guess it's pretty unrelenting is the word. It's just non-stop. Um,
yeah.
Obviously, you get to turn around every 4 hours, so it worked out pretty much being every 4 hours you turn around, and I was pretty much getting a marathon done each time. So it was pretty much 6 marathons. Run one way around the track, turn around, do it again, again.
Because yeah, was it like 240 something Ks in total
Yeah,
you did, right?
officially was I think just under 237, but yeah, on my watch it was around that 240, 245.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
was it only breaks to like go to the toilet pretty much, right?
Yeah, well, the toilet was actually off the track up a little alleyway into a
Oh, I
building.
saw you say
Um,
something about that.
and
Yeah.
because it was such a cold night and I was fueling on like fluids for 95% of it, yeah, I had to piss a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not like the trail running where you can just sort of, turn to the side and whip it out.
Yeah.
So I actually looked at my file and I think I went to the toilet like 14 times
Oh, wow.
in 24 hours, which, yeah, it's quite a lot.
Yeah,
But you
man.
got to keep fueling. That was the main thing.
Yeah, so when it comes to say like the tactics of fueling and stuff like that, when it comes to something like the UTMB, what is the approach there and how does it differ? Because obviously you'll have like a bunch of aid stations and stuff along the way, but you'll be carrying a lot of your own fuel as well. So how do the tactics differ when it's something like 170 Ks up in the mountains versus just around a track?
Yeah, around the track was awesome because I saw my crew and had a little table every 400 meters. So you
Yeah,
could
yeah.
literally get a drink or anything you wanted, every 2 minutes. Whereas UTMB, yeah, there's a few large sections which could be, 2 or 3 hours apart.
Mm,
So that's where you're going to have to be quite strategic and making sure you've got enough on board because, yeah, it's getting quite warm here. And if you're in the middle of the day with a 25k section to go before the next aid station and you run out, then yeah, shit will hit the fan pretty quick.
yeah.
So you're already carrying like 4 to 5 kilos of compulsory gear in your pack. And then, yeah, if you're chucking another litre or two in of fluids, then yeah, you just sort of got to weigh out the risk versus reward with the weight.
Yeah, quite literally weighing it out.
Mm.
And well, what does the compulsory gear list look like? Because obviously, being up in altitude like that, even if the forecast says it's going to be good, the weather could change it at an instant. Like it could go from sunny to raining, like pretty quickly. So you have a compulsory gear list. I guess that's like supplied by the race, and I guess they check it and stuff before you race to make sure you've got all the equipment.
Yeah, so you're getting all that sort of checked off. So you've got some first aid requirements with some special tape that you have to carry, and like a safety blanket, that sort of thing. And then yeah, the gear you've got to have like base layer for your lower half of your body, so full pants, full top, and then you got to have waterproof overpants, waterproof jacket, beanie,
Oh,
waterproof gloves. Two head torches with spare batteries, a mobile phone that works in France, Switzerland, and Italy, which I think the plan just covers Europe.
yeah.
And you have to be able to carry a litre of water. And then they've got some other, like if it's an extra hot day or an extra cold day, there's a couple of other things that could come into play. But yeah, that's pretty much the most of the compulsory kit, I think, and they'll check that at registration and make sure you've got it all.
Yeah, right. Man, that makes it like there's so many different components. It's so much more than just obviously running 170K with that elevation is ridiculous, but like there's so much more to it as well. Like there's the navigation piece, the making sure you have like all of the compulsory equipment. Was that stuff that you practiced for, I suppose, when you were doing those runs back home? Like were they like running with a weighted pack, that kind of stuff to practice climbing and getting that strength with weight in the pack as well, like you would
Yeah,
for the UTMB?
my last few key sessions are fully loaded up with all the compulsory kit, and trying
Yeah,
to replicate as much as you can, like with yeah the nutrition, pacing, effort wise. I mean, as much as you can when they're in New Zealand winter. But
yeah,
yeah, I had a few big key sessions with plenty of elevation, and plenty of time on the feet just in the last couple of weeks before I left. And that's sort of yeah as much as you can do back home. And
mm,
now just trying to trickle in enough elevation and training, sort of in this next 10 days. It's a fine balance between getting carried away because it's so awesome to tapering and realizing that yeah you've got a massive race that you want to actually freshen up a little bit for.
yeah. I was wondering what your approach was in these last couple of weeks because I see you smashing out these massive runs. Like each day, you're like up at 2,000 plus meters, and like for someone like you, obviously that's just you're probably in a bit of like your paradise right now, being able to just pick a mountain and go run up it. So, what are these couple of weeks coming into it look like for you? You're saying that is it next week because the race is at the end of next week, you start to taper down a little bit. So would that be complete rest days or just kind of flat runs or what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a really nice outdoor swimming pool here as well. So, I mean, like
Oh,
tomorrow,
nice.
I'm planning a day off the feet, but I'll still get, an hour or so of exercise in and probably have a wander through town and that sort of thing. So, it's not complete rest. Um, but yeah, all the work's done. Like, I had a massive 10-week block at home before I came away. And I think I averaged like 130, 140 Ks a week for 10 weeks.
Mm,
So, the bulk of the work's done. Now it's just doing a few specific sessions. Like today was, yeah, pretty much an hour and a half climb, with an hour descent on the other side. Just to, yeah, practice using the poles, working out how hot it's going to be, which, yeah, was pretty sweaty today.
yeah.
Get through a
Even
fair
as you
amount
get
of,
high, it's still quite warm as you
yeah,
get
yeah.
up.
Well, like on the way up, it was quite cloudy and we broke through the clouds. And yeah, the sun came out and it was bloody hot.
Damn. Because
Yeah.
I was thinking, because like we were in Chamonix a few weeks ago, and it's hot down in the valley, and I was wondering what it would be like for you up there. We caught that gondola thing up, but that's to like 4,000 meters or something,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah, yeah.
obviously going to be cold up there. So I
Yeah.
was wondering like what it would be like. Because is it around that 2,000 meters that you get up to? Like, do you get
We
up
get
to around that?
above 2.5 a
Oh
few
yeah,
times in the race.
yeah,
Whereas today I got up to 2.5, and I passed a few big like snowy bits as well, which was quite
yeah.
cool. But it was still warm, you know. It was just pockets that were still in the shadows. But I mean, that snow must last all day at the moment. Must
Mm,
just be thick enough to hang around. But I guess they've had a little bit of colder weather this past week, so I can't imagine that snow will be hanging around too much more if we get some more days like this.
yeah. When we were up at I think it was 4,000 if I remember rightly, but I've never felt altitude like that before. Like you hear about altitude affecting you and stuff, and like honestly, we walked up like a flight of stairs that's like 10 stairs. And I felt lightheaded and like I had to like hang on to something for a second to get my breath. Is it similar running at that kind of 2,000 meters? Like, what is it like in terms of the altitude? Is it affecting you at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell because you're going up such a steep hill. You're sort of
Yeah.
just monitoring your effort, by feel. So if you're probably only pushing to the same sort of effort, but you're probably just going a hell of a lot slower.
Yeah.
I rented a altitude simulation machine for the last 6 weeks
Oh,
back in New
nice.
Zealand.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that's helped a bit. I mean, there's no really way to know, but I think just that's ticking one of those boxes that some people feel it quite bad even at 2,500. I've been up there for the last 2 days in a row and didn't really notice too much.
Yeah.
If you start getting any higher or pushing harder, that's when you'll definitely feel it.
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
was one thing I was wondering about your prep. Because, like you say, your choices of 2,000 meter peaks around Hamilton is probably pretty small. So that's interesting. So I noticed in your prep, maybe if we could actually explore your prep for this a bit more, because you've already mentioned quite a few things. For your prep, what was the plan of attack for it in terms of like time frame, and what were some of the key things that you knew you needed to include in that prep phase?
Yeah, so more volume to start with. So I did pull the swimming and biking like right back, like probably the smallest amount I've done in the last 10 years, which is actually quite nice for a change, just swimming a couple of times a week and just biking as a supplementary sort of, add on, nothing too specific. And then the run sessions were really targeted about, the key long run, which for me was probably at least a marathon every weekend. And that was building up as we got closer to the peak of the block. So, I started off around 125 Ks a week for the first month, which is still big for me, even within the last 5 years. I've probably only done a handful of weeks at that volume.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to see how I was adapting. And I think the overall load with the biking and swimming coming back, and obviously the last bunch of years conditioning, seemed to handle it quite well. So I just kept creeping that up, but also layering on extra elevation as well. So, you can look at the volume, the distance, but it's really the elevation plus the distance that gets the bulk of the training. And then still wanted to get probably three key long sessions in. So I think I got a 70K, an 80K, and a 100K training run done.
Mhm.
And that's sort of at the end of a fairly big week as well. And they all went, as well as I could have hoped. I was back running within 2 days after the 100K run. So I think that shows that the conditioning was, pretty good.
Yeah, was it sunrise to sunset you did the other day?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, started just
Yeah.
before the sun came up and finished just after the sun went down, which, had some mates join me for sort of the first 50, 60 Ks and then just, left on my own for the last marathon to sort of grind it out.
Yeah. And is a lot of those mileage done on trail as well, or are you kind of mixing it up between the road and the trail?
I mean, I don't have trails too close to home, so I got to drive either like 30 or 40 minutes. But I was getting one sort of midweek 20 to 30K quite hilly trail done, and then one on the weekend as well. And the rest was just road and even a bit of treadmill at home as well.
Mm.
Um,
But coming into the race, because it sounds like your training's gone really well. Like your body, I don't know, man. You're just a machine. Like the stuff you do, I follow you on Strava, and the stuff you do is just ridiculous. Like that's where I see most of your runs. Like half of them, it looks like you should have done them on a bike, not be on your feet. When you go for 80 k's. But coming into something like the UTMB, where is your mindset at? Like, is it to in terms of like, do you think you could win something like this, or is it like, oh, I just want to smash it out, get a personal best time, like under a set amount of hours? Like, where is your mind at coming into the UTMB?
I think for this specific race, I'm a bit more relaxed because I don't expect to win. Don't expect to probably be within a couple of hours of the win.
Hmm.
These guys live on the course, train on the course, and yeah, I know what those top guys can do. So I think going in, I can just stick to my plan, not worry about what anyone else is doing. Um, Time sort of goes out the window as well. I mean, weather and conditions could change your time like 3 or 4 hours quite easily. You know, if it's a bit
Yeah,
hotter or a bit colder or rainy or windy or whatever. Um, and I don't have any personal checkpoints where I know I need to get to a certain point because I've never done it before. So I think
yeah,
just going in with the relaxed mindset of pace myself, sort out my nutrition and my effort. I think if I can do that well, then I'll finish strong. And yeah, where that puts me, um, I wouldn't have a clue,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
which is quite cool. I mean, hopefully it'll be up near the pointy end,
yeah.
but time will tell.
Yeah, and for people who wouldn't have any idea on a rough time estimate for this, like what would your like rough kind of time window be? Is it like 20 something hours, I guess, right?
Yeah, so like course record is like just under 20 hours,
Oh
which
yeah.
for 100 miles is slow,
Yeah.
which shows that the conditions and the terrain, and it's longer than 100 miles. Like, 100 miles is 160 whatever. This is another 10 Ks on top of that, which adds quite a bit of time when you're on terrain, like we will be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thinking ballpark 24 to 20 something hours. I'd be
Yeah.
pretty stoked with. Um, but also, yeah, I've got no idea really. So that's just going off, um, yeah, seeing what other people have done in the past.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to these sort of long endurance events, what do you consider to be the biggest barriers or things that you have to work through them? Like you're saying how it was quite physical for the 24-hour track, just the repetitive nature of it. What do you foresee being some of the sticking points for something like this, and some of the things that you kind of already know that you're going to have to work through?
Well, I think there's like 200 elite men on the start line. So the start's going to be pretty hectic. I think
Yeah.
everyone's fighting for position because once you get on those single track trails, it's hard and bloody annoying to pass people. So there's going to be people just fighting. And I've heard the first 8Ks can just be like, a full on fast run
Yeah. Well,
through
that's just
town. And before you
flat,
get,
right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it'll just be judging, yeah, how you're feeling. And it's a long day. So
Yeah.
it can't be won in that first 8K, but it can definitely be lost. So I think just really pacing that initial part, and then yeah, getting through the night I think will be huge because I mean we start at 6 p.m., which is quite random.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So you
it's
start, and how much, like, what times does it get dark then? At like
8:30.
eight something? Yeah.
Yeah, so you got a couple of hours of daylight, and then you're straight into the night, which is quite interesting because obviously you're going to be awake all day. You're going to have a couple of meals. You're going to have to get to the start line probably a couple of hours early to get a good spot in the heat of the sun, fueling and all those sorts of things. Yeah, it's a challenging start time for sure, and
Mm.
then going straight into the night. Managing yourself in the night. I mean, these trails in the dark, especially if it's foggy, like your head torch just looks like you're running through a cloud a meter away from your face. So
Yeah.
it'll just be managing yourself through till the morning. And I think if you can do that well, then you've still got the whole day to get through as well. So I think it'll just be. I'll be looking forward to that sunrise. Gives you a bit of a boost, and then you sort of get into your work there really. So you've still got 12 hours of
Yeah, man.
till that happens, and that's when the race really starts. I think.
Yeah, because typically they would start quite early in the morning, right? Doing
Yeah,
something
the
like
ones I've
this.
done is 4:30 in the morning. So then you're usually done by before dark
Yeah,
that night. Like say at Tarawera, where I ran about 16 hours, you're finishing just on dusk, even though you're starting at 4 in the morning. But because this race is probably going to be, 10 hours longer, I think they want the first place top guys and girls to come in before sunset on that
yeah,
second day.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man, I can't decide if like doing the night first would psychologically make it easier or not. Because in theory, you'd still be fresher, even though it's late in the evening. You're still fresher than having had run like 8 or 10 hours,
yeah,
right? Like it's still at the end of the day, but you're still going
yeah.
to be fresher than having been on
But
your
see, the
feet for
hard
12 hours.
the hard thing is a lot of people will have 2 nights because usually
Mm,
you'd have a day, a night, and then another day, whereas they may have a night, a
of
day, and then
course.
another whole night. So that adds another element as well.
Oh yeah, if you're going over that, like what, 30 hours or something. Yeah, true. I was
Yeah,
thinking that 24
no, yeah.
hours, whereas like that's the quick end of it.
Cutoff's 48 or 50, I think.
Is it?
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
if you're, yeah, most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people would go into it with the tactic of just sort of like getting up the inclines and then running the downhills and flats, right? Is that your kind of approach, or do you see yourself like running a lot of the inclines as well?
nah, that sort of, yeah, that decides for you, really. You don't get to
Yeah,
choose
on the
what you're
gradient.
running.
Yeah,
I prefer to push the uphills and save the legs a little bit on the downhills,
yeah,
and then that keeps your legs a bit fresher for running the flats. So I think if you can
mm,
manage the ups and downs to be able to run the flatter sections, which there's not many in this race,
yeah.
yeah, that's probably the key.
Yeah, because I've been getting into like a little bit of trail running lately. I'm looking at doing an event, nothing like ultra distance, maybe like a half marathon trail to start off with. But one
Yep.
thing I noticed is it feels so different to just a flat road run because it feels so much more muscular. Like even when you're going up, you're kind of pulling yourself up, but then even when you're going down, it's like you're trying to stop yourself the whole time. So it feels like it's way more loading on the muscles and joints. Is that something that sort of factored into the training as well, where it's like about conditioning the muscles and the joints to that kind
Yeah,
of
big
loading?
time. It's the downhills where people come unstuck, and once your quads and things go, then the pressure transfers to your knees, and yeah, everything sort of goes out the window form wise. So yeah, I
Mm,
was I was working a lot on the descending, eccentric loading strength in my training, and was just careful with slowly ramping that up. And just running the downhills a bit harder, a bit stronger as I built through my training block. And it's amazing, like the DOMs that you get from running hard downhill for 5Ks. In my first session where I did that, you're sore for like 4 or 5 days. You can feel that, and then by the end, you could run that same pace, same effort, and not even really feel it the next day. So it's quite cool to see that progression of getting stronger, um, and then the strength that you gain from that downhill running um, does transfer across to your flat running and your uphill running as well, because it's just that overload of your quads and all the muscles on the front.
Yeah, it almost sounds quite similar to, I don't know, when you first start weight training or something. Like you get someone who's fresh, never been to the gym before, and you do, I don't know, some squats, some leg press, and some leg extensions, and their
Yep.
legs could be cooked for 3 or 4 days. But
Yep.
if you did that or someone experienced on that, you just don't get any DOMs at all.
Yep. Oh, if I went to the gym and did that, I know I'd be sore for a week right now because it's so different.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if I took you to some trails and said, right, follow me for 5K down the hill, you'd
After
feel it.
100 meters, you'd disappear probably.
you'd
Be like,
you'd feel it more than your squat session, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah, and it's interesting because it's not necessarily like a cardiovascular thing, especially the downhill, right? It's your heart rate wouldn't really be
Oh,
getting up unless you're scared, maybe,
yeah,
but like your heart rate wouldn't be getting up. It's more just about the repeated muscle contraction, I guess.
that's it. It's just that wear and tear,
Mm,
and literally, that's the thing you're going to have to manage across the entire race. Because yeah, if your quads sort of, they say, oh, when your quads blow out, it's sort of like when they just give up.
Yeah.
That's when, yeah, if you're walking huge, long downhills, that's where time is just, yeah, you're just bleeding time everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
to try and combat like your quads blowing out, would you maybe have any more electrolyte or salt powder or increase your carb intake or anything? Like, does your nutrition change when it's something like this versus doing like a flat run?
No, my nutrition plan pretty much sticks the same across from a half marathon to a, you know,
Ultra.
24-hour run.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get as many sort of carbs in before it starts to affect your stomach, really.
Mm.
So I'll be pushing upwards of probably 80 to 100 grams of carbs early on, and then just assessing how the stomach's feeling and yeah, how it's going as we get into it.
Yeah. It is interesting because of how much it differs. But I suppose would you say your body is still consuming at a pretty similar rate during this as it would in something else?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe even more because the uphills are so taxing as well.
Mm.
And then when you add the altitude in as well, you've just got a higher heart rate, higher breathing rate. So I think your calorie consumption needs to be, matching the output.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
think there's almost a 50% DNF rate at this race.
Is there?
Not
One
making
in
the
two people.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
it's 40 to 50, somewhere in that range. And they're saying like half of that is nutrition related, either getting it wrong by having not enough or too much, or yeah, literally not making those time cutoff points along the way.
Wow. What do you think that is when it comes to nutrition? Is it that people do you think people are more likely to underfuel at the start and then get them into a situation where they don't have enough fuel? Like is that kind of what you think would happen there?
No, I think it's just not training enough with
Yeah.
what you need to take in. So people just not valuing that you got to train your stomach as much as you got to train your legs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where those long days that I think not enough people push their runs out past 4 hours, 5 hours. Like my 100K run was, I think it was 10 hours. So there's no way of knowing what your stomach's going to feel like at 10 hours unless you run for 10 hours and you're trying to fuel. And I found out another few things in that last 100K run as well, where, yeah, I probably went a bit strong with my concentrate through sort of 50 to 60 Ks, but then worked out a few strategies where I could, turn it around, change it up a bit. So it was good to have that in the bank, and then I can plan ahead if something similar happens here.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I chatted to like a running nutritionist. I had her on the podcast, and she doesn't coach like ultra stuff, but up to marathon distance. And
Yeah.
one of the key things she said as well was about training the gut. She says people focus obviously so much on wanting to build the cardiovascular system and all that kind of stuff and build the body's conditioning to running that distance, but training the gut is one of the most important things you need to do because I guess if you can't take on the fuel or if you feel sick, it's going to have a huge impact on your race.
Yeah, especially with the races that are this long. Like, you can get
Yeah.
through a marathon or something if, yeah, your stomach gives up at 30 Ks, it's like, okay, you've got 10K to go. Whereas here, if it gives up at 30 or 40 Ks, it's like, yeah, it's going to get pretty ugly.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I think, yeah, too many people are scared of fueling properly during their races, whether that's a fear of the carbs or worrying about body composition or whatever the fact may be. But
Mm.
I think training that is just so valuable. There's times where you don't have to fuel up fully, like if you're just going out for a bit of a cruise. But when you're doing your key sessions, you want to be fueling exactly like you'll be on race day. So then you know how it's going to go.
Yeah. Do you think
Mm.
that comes from, I don't know, something like running? I feel like to a certain extent, you can get away with not having like amazing nutrition. Whereas, say, I don't know, if you're a bodybuilder stepping on stage, it's very evident to see if your nutrition isn't good because you're not going to get in shape. Do you think that's it where, like, with running, you might not immediately notice the negative impacts of having poor nutrition?
I think endurance athletes just justify shit food too much,
True.
because that long, slow training makes you bloody hungry.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you say, right, I just went and ran for 4 hours. I'm allowed this, whatever you
Yeah.
want. Um, so I think it's just, yeah, people should be stricter. I'm not saying can't treat yourself, but it's more about getting the quality protein and recovery foods in. So I'm definitely not restricting calories, but I'm trying to get as much quality stuff in as I can. Like today, once I came home from that 3 hour run, I had like 4 eggs on some toast, and then a bit of a protein shake as well.
Mhm.
Whereas, yeah, you could have gone down to
Get a
the
pan au
local.
chocolat,
Exactly.
croissant.
Which, when I did my marathon around the lake the other day, I treated myself to a pan au chocolat.
Yeah, you have to.
And there's got to be a few of those in this next week as well. But yeah, it's just not a thing that should be on the list first, top of the list every time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's funny you say that. I was like maybe like an hour ago chatting to a guy in the office who he wants to do an Ironman, and I think he's already done maybe a half one. But anyway, I was chatting to him. He was asking me. He was like, "Oh man, you seem to eat like a lot. Like you eat a lot of protein and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, like protein is really important. Like you
Yeah.
know, you want at least like 1 gram per
Mhm.
pound of body weight." Blah blah blah. I started chatting to him, and he's like, "Oh man, maybe I should really start to focus on that." Like, yeah, it'll help you a lot if you start to increase your protein and start to get your nutrition in order. If you're already training for hours, like 10, 15 hours a week, whatever it is, you might as well put some effort in to your nutrition as well. It's only going to complement that physical stuff that you're doing.
Exactly. And I think that's been a massive part of the last 10 weeks of being able to handle and recover from and pull up the next day, to be able to back up those runs, day after day, week after week. If you weren't getting your nutrition right or you're under fueling, then yeah, stuff starts to fall apart. You start to get niggles, run down, sick. So I think just getting enough of the right protein, um, calories, and hydration in, to be able to not only fuel the session you're doing, but recover from that one and set yourself up for if you've got another one that afternoon or the next morning, as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a good point. When it comes to doing these crazy endurance events that you do, what do you think it is that allows you to be able to do this and push through such big distances? Like I don't know, I'm thinking of someone if I don't know, maybe they've run a marathon or a half or something and they're thinking about exploring the world of endurance, but they're not too sure. Like what kind of qualities does someone need to have to be able to complete these sort of events?
Well, I think you just got to ask yourself what's the worst thing that can happen. It's like, if you start too fast, then yeah, shit might hit the fan. But when you do your longer one, your first long race, just treat it as a nice cruisy day.
Mm,
And I think people just need to give themselves more credit, yeah, of what their bodies can do. Um, Human beings are pretty amazing, and I know a few people that have, I've coached some people from nothing to 100-mile races, in fairly quick succession as well. So I think it's just getting the training right and building the confidence, towards the race. So I think confidence is a massive thing. Just knowing that you've put the work in, and have done those key sessions where you're, yeah, ticking it off with the gear, the nutrition, and everything like that. So then when you step on the start line, it's like, yeah, if you control what you can, then yeah, you're setting yourself up for as good as day as you can.
yeah. Would you say that there are more like psychological barriers to overcome than physical barriers when it comes to, say, that example, training someone from nothing to completing 100 miles?
That's a huge part, but I always say it's more psychological once the training's done. So I think
Yeah, true.
you got to have the training done.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no shortcutting that. That's for sure.
Mm,
And then it's just getting the mind in the right place. If you can get that in the right place, then you can utilize the training and fitness that you've got.
yeah. That's something I think about quite a bit when, because I've been watching quite a lot of trail running events like the Golden Trail series and these ultra things. And you see I don't know, maybe the pinnacle of the training where it's cool, it's race day, I get to do this thing. But what you don't really see is all the hours and the day after day repetitive training where you're like, I would say that's arguably almost more difficult than doing the thing, the race day. Like what gets you through that consistent repetitive nature, like those 130K weeks that you have to do? Like where does your mind have to be in order to keep ticking those boxes off day after day?
Yeah, you come and do a 10-week stint in the Hamilton winter, and you'll see what it's like. But I think just knowing from past events that obviously the better you prepare, the better the race is going to go. And
Yeah.
as these events get longer, there's no shortcuts. Like that's it. The guy who wins has put in the most work. There's no two ways about it. The guys that are doing really well, like the top probably 50 guys here, will all have had a bloody good, tough preparation. There's no two ways about it.
Mm.
People are saying, "Oh, you must have natural talent for running and fitness," and it's like, no, you know, no one's got that.
No one can just get up and run 100 miles.
The guys that are doing well at these long events have put in the hard yards for
Mhm.
years, decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts to being able to race 100 miles. And I
Yeah.
think just knowing that gives you the motivation to just get the sessions done. It's like I didn't want
Mm.
to turn up to UTMB half cooked, because it's hard enough when you are in the shape of your life, let alone if you know deep down that you've missed sessions that you should have done as well. And I think that's the psychological side of things, the confidence that you build from knowing that you nailed every single session in the build up. Um,
Mm.
that feeling same thing. You can't cheat that feeling. You know if you slept in, if you pulled up easy on a rep, on a certain workout, if you skip something here and there, when shit gets hard in the race, that's where your brain goes. And it's like, oh, I haven't prepared well, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. And then you just go into that negative spiral. So I think it's building confidence through your sessions you've done. So then when you get to that start line, it's like, yeah, I've done all I can. Now it's in the hands of the UTMB gods to
The
see
gods.
how rough it's going to get.
Yeah. Oh, that combination of turning up to each session, both obviously its physical benefit, but also its psychological benefit of knowing you ticked all the boxes. I hadn't really considered it like that, but like psychologically, like, oh yeah, I did all my sessions, that's good. But knowing that I ticked every box and I was able to do everything I needed to do in order to be here, and how that can send you in more of a positive spiral. Whereas the reverse, like you're saying there, as soon as shit hits the fan or you're feeling cooked or your quads are blown up, I could imagine that you would, if you skip sessions or took it easy or whatever, that's probably what you would zoom in on straight away and be like, man, I should have done those long sessions
Yep.
even when I didn't want to.
Yeah, 100%. And same thing, like if you just see a 40-minute easy run on your plan and you're feeling a bit tired or sore and you think, oh, I'm making the smart decision by not doing it.
Yeah.
Deep down, you know whether, you should do it or you shouldn't. So if you're making the call, when you know you really could get out there and do it,
Mhm.
whether it's 8 o'clock at night and it's raining and you're like, oh, fuck, I just want to go to bed.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, you get more out of it mentally. 40-minute easy jog if you're tired might not give you huge benefits physically, but mentally knowing that you've ticked that off, you'll sleep better that night and you'll get into the next day and just keep that momentum rolling, I think.
The human brain is so funny how it comes up with really logical reasons as to why you shouldn't do something. It's 8 o'clock. That's going to push out the bedtime. So, maybe I should, like it can come up with really logical reasons as to why you couldn't do the thing. But you're so right in knowing, deep down,
Yeah, yeah,
you probably should be doing that thing.
yeah. And
But
it's
no, yeah,
quite
you go.
funny. A lot of my athletes, same thing, will text me or message me and say, whatever's come up, blah blah blah. Should
Have
I
to
try
wash my
and
hair tonight. Should
nah?
I?
Just like, should I try and fit this session in? And quite often, I'll just ignore it and not reply. And then 9 times out of 10, they'll do it because they answer it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's a certain thing where, I think it shouldn't be done, then I'll say, give it a miss.
Mm.
If there's a niggle or if there's something that looks like it won't benefit them, but 9 times out of 10, they'll message later on and be like, "Oh, I did it anyway," or whatever. And you're like,
Yeah.
I knew that because you knew that you needed to get it done.
Yeah. They're almost just like looking for the
Oh, definitely.
excuse or the approval. Oh,
Yep.
nah, coach said I shouldn't do it, so nah, I
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
not.
Or I'll
Yeah.
throw it back to them and say, "What do you think you should do?" You know,
Yeah.
and same thing. 99 times out of 100, they'll know the right answer because deep down you know.
Yeah, yeah. What would be the things that would stop you from training? Because I could imagine that someone at your level, the discipline would probably be actually taking the rest when you need to, not trying to find an excuse not to train. So, what are
Yeah.
the things that stop you from training? Is it like injuries and sickness, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, especially because I'm coaching myself as well, so I don't really,
Yeah,
I bounce ideas off my wife, and she's pretty smart. So sometimes she'll just be like, "No, harden up, go and get it done," or whatever. I remember specifically, I had this double 30K run day that I wanted to do, and same thing, I was nearly not going to do that second one because I'd planned to do it at 10 o'clock at night to sort of simulate the nighttime, tired running, and I'd run 30Ks that morning. Then I was sort of like, oh, maybe I'll just do 15 or 20Ks. And she's like, no, harden up, get out, get it done,
you're like, yes,
which
ma'am.
is good.
Yeah,
But yeah, if I'm sick or run down or something like that, I'll generally make the call now. And it might just be shorten it up a bit or do a bike session or something like that. But because I'm planning my sessions, I've got the flexibility to, adjust things out a day or so if I need to. And I'm not worried about, missing something because I can still get the overall volume and structure in of the week or the 2 weeks or whatever the block is that I want.
Mm. But when it comes to coaching yourself, how do you go about setting up your plan and having the confidence that the plan is what you need to do? I feel like if I coached myself, I'd be second guessing myself, like, should that be 60K or should that be 40K? Or how many times should I do this loop? Like, how do you go about making that plan and feeling confident that, yeah, this is the plan that's going to get me to where I need to be?
Yeah, I think my plan sort of is a bit more flowy. Like I'll adjust things on the fly, or if I'm training with mates on the weekend, I can adjust things. But I think I've got my key sessions that I know that work for me. And if I can put, say, 6 or so of them in a 6 week block, then the rest of the week, I just fill in with sessions that I know I get a lot out of, enjoy, and then throw the odd super challenging one in that I hate, just
Yeah,
to keep that part of it there as well.
spice it up a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah. Do you think through this training block you've learned anything new about yourself that you didn't know before and that you sort of discovered with this increase in running and the increase in, I don't know, maybe the nighttime trails? Like, did you learn anything new about yourself from this training block?
Been on some epic adventures in this block. Like me and a couple of mates did this big, I think it was about a 20-hour night mission. It was all day and all night, really, through the whole Kaimai Ranges in New Zealand. That was,
Mhm.
awesome. And I think just doing those hard things just makes you realize, like, you get to the end and you're like, yep, you hated it. But the minute it's done, you get a lot of, you're just so stoked. And I think that just builds the confidence to know you got through that. Awesome. What's the next sort of challenge to step that up a bit more again?
Mm.
Yeah. And I think I've handled the volume way better than I thought. Like I was expecting to do a few weeks at 120 Ks and then maybe back it off for a week and then do a few more. But across the 10 weeks, I was actually feeling that good that I could keep ramping to my peak week of, like, I think it was nearly 170 Ks the week before I flew out. So, and touch wood, like body held together pretty good. So I'd be confident to even bump that up a little bit more if I was doing another prep. Next time.
what would you expect to go first, or to negatively, or like what would you expect from your body to not be able to handle that amount of volume? Like, what were some of the ideas in your head? Is it more just niggles arising from the amount of volume, or what
Yeah,
do you think it
generally
was?
that's the first thing is like some muscular fatigue or breakdown.
Yeah.
That's the most common thing. But I think just managing the nutrition and recovery side of things just shows how much that can play a part.
Mm. And you're mentioning that doing quite a few of your big training sessions through the night time. When it comes to working through the night, because obviously it's very counterintuitive to our biology to be still running at night time, how do you mentally get through that? Like, do you chunk it down into times or distances, or do you just keep chipping away? Like, what's the psychological approach to the nighttime?
Yeah, I think like with any big sessions where I know it's going to be 100 Ks, 20 hours, it is, yeah, just breaking it down. And generally the first half will go pretty smoothly, and then you got to start getting the smaller chunks as you get closer to the end,
Yeah,
and just keeping your mind busy. Chuck a few Red Bulls down and turn it into a bit of an adventure.
yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
running
What
at
did you
night
say?
time is,
Jaeger bombs. You said right for the track event.
yeah, that could be good.
Yeah. What was that? What were you saying? Running through the night time?
I enjoy running at night. Like running at night is pretty peaceful.
Hmm.
So I think just, yeah, your event has to have a lot of running at night. So doing just enough that it's not going to be affecting your sleep too much or your
Mm,
recovery, but just a few key sessions where you are spending a bit of time on the trails at night. Yeah, pays off quite a bit.
yeah. I just like haven't done like any running like at night, well, at night time, but through the night. So I just couldn't even really imagine like the psychological aspects of it, because you like, would you say you get tired necessarily, or are you so wired still from the task at hand that you don't necessarily feel sleepy, or do you get
No,
sleepy?
you feel tired. You feel
Yeah,
shattered,
yeah.
especially if you started first thing in the morning, because
Hmm.
you've run through the whole day, and then the sun goes down. It gets a bit colder. It gets a bit darker, obviously, and yeah, stuff just gets harder. Like you start tripping over things a bit more. You start seeing things, and you just know it's going to be a long night. Especially if you're going through the whole night. The minute that sun goes down, especially if it's New Zealand winter or whatever, you've got 12 or 14 hours of
Yeah,
pitch darkness um, before the sun comes up again.
yeah, man. I want to do it sometime. Sounds kind of fun in a very challenging sort of way.
Mm.
When it comes to selecting your gear for something like this, like I'm thinking shoes, pack, coat, like headlamp, all that kind of stuff. How do you go about doing that? Like, do you do a bit of research, bit of trial and error, or do you just pick something up? Like, how do you choose what to use?
Yeah, just trialing things over the years, and
Hmm.
you sort of slowly narrow down on. Yeah, I mean, compulsory kit. 99 sounds of it out of 100. You're not using any of it really, especially in
Yeah.
New Zealand. Here, you might pull out the jacket and gloves or something if it gets cold. So that stuff's just been in my mandatory kit for years. Like it's just an old jacket that is seam sealed, so it does the job. But I can't even tell you the last time I wore it. Um,
Oh, well.
and same thing with the base layer top and pants. It's like you have to be in a bit of trouble to actually put that on, because if you're racing, you stay pretty warm.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, here it could be a different story again if a couple of fronts roll through or something,
Yeah.
and you're up at 2,500 meters. Then hey, you might be scrambling for your gloves and jacket.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it needing to whip it all out.
Hmm.
So yeah, that gear just stays pretty standard. Haven't gone too crazy. Like some people are buying $400 jackets because they're 30 grams lighter and that sort of thing. Yeah, so it's just finding a comfy pack and some good gear that works. And the shoes, yeah, I mean I've trialed lots of different shoes, and I've got a new pair that I'll do a couple of runs in this week and then use them for the race.
Yeah. What did you get? Was it Saucony ones? Was it?
Yeah, so can you using the Exodus 2, which is just their sort of not a carbon trail run or anything, but it's just a low profile, pretty solid racy, yeah, shoe with decent grip.
Yeah, because I suppose most of the terrain will be just pretty rocky stuff. You don't imagine it'd be very muddy or anything, right?
No, unless they got a bit of rain beforehand, I'd say most of it's sort of just packed dirt and then yeah, rocks and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we've been
Yeah,
doing some of our runs in the UK here, and like we did one in the weekend. It was so boggy. I've heard of people talk about it be boggy, but I've just never seen it. Like if you put your foot in the wrong place, it's like easily over your ankle in mud. So
yeah,
I would vote for like rocky, kind of dusty terrain over a muddy sort of boggy terrain, I think.
yeah. New Zealand's generally pretty muddy and boggy, especially through
Yeah,
winter.
yeah,
Um, but here, yeah, you've got a mix of all sorts. It's sort of at the lower ground, you've got a bit of grass, farmland, dirt. But the minute you get up past, 1,500 meters, there's just not a lot of you know trees or grass or anything because nothing survives up there. So then it's
mm,
just sort of more rocks and yeah, sheep and goats.
yeah. All with bells on it too. The cows over
Yeah,
there all got
yeah,
bells on
yeah.
them as well. And what about navigating the course? I guess you have it preloaded into your watch or something like that, and you follow that,
Um,
or
you could do, but I'd say this course is going to be pretty well signposted. I mean,
yeah,
you've got a couple of thousand people. They're not going to want to get people, lost. That's a big drama for them. So I'd say there's not going to be a worry of getting lost. And just because there's that many people, I'd say even up the front, if it spreads out, but there's still going to be people near about.
yeah,
So yeah, not too worried there. Yeah,
yeah, because
that shouldn't be an issue.
circumnavigating yeah, I guess because it's so popular, right? Like maybe if there wasn't so many people doing it, it might be a bit sketchy, but
Yeah,
you're probably almost always going to be within a few hundred meters of someone, right? I don't,
that's my thoughts, but I mean, it
yeah,
could be different.
yeah.
I'll let you know afterwards. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't want to
Got
add on.
lost.
You don't want to add on another 10Ks just for fun.
Ended up in South Italy. I
Yeah,
got lost.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
no.
man. When you do these events, what do you think you get out of doing them? Like, other than obviously feeling the accomplishment of doing it, that's got to be part of it. But what do you think you're looking for in doing these very hard events?
I mean, this trip was obviously UTMB is a bucket list race that A is hard to get into and B is probably one of the most epic runs that you can do anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So there wasn't too much needed to yeah, hit go on the entry there, but just the trip and also this part of the country where I am in Annecy, and just looking at different terrain and that sort of thing. Like I'm so keen to bring the family back for a trip here, and when the kids are a bit older, like there was a
Mhm.
few families out hiking, even this big track I was on today, and that just looks amazing. So I think just yeah, finding some cool stuff to bring the family back to do as well.
Yeah, is that why you do this? You're like, oh, Hawaii looks nice. I'm gonna go do the Ultraman there and check it out. Maybe I'd like to bring the family here. No, that would be part of it, man. Because somewhere like that area, you just, I suppose maybe the South Island of New Zealand is like somewhat comparable, like the Glenorchy, like Southern Alps kind of
Yeah, well,
areas,
it's
maybe
made me
comparable.
think more about getting onto some cool mountains in New Zealand as well. Because yeah,
Yeah,
there are down Wanaka Queenstown way. Got a couple of mates that live down that way, so I see a bit of footage. So I just need to book some trips. Get the family
yeah.
down there as well, and just start exploring our own country. Because yeah, too many Kiwis just travel abroad and think the rest of the world's pretty cool, which it is. But then there's some gems back home where just need to find some more as well.
Well, it's kind of ironic how it takes traveling 30 hours away to reflect on it and be like, man, New Zealand's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Because that's something that we realized as well. Obviously, Chamonix is epic, but I was just thinking because we've done the route burn and spent a little bit of time down south, it made me reflect on that. Like, man, I've done hardly any of the South Island at all.
Yeah.
Like, you got
Yeah,
Mount
same
Cook,
here. Yeah.
like Aspiring National Park, Milford,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. People from here travel 30 hours to go see
Yeah,
that
yeah,
down
yeah,
there,
exactly.
whereas we do
Yeah.
the reverse to
Yeah.
go there.
Except flying from Hamilton's probably about the same price getting to France than it is getting down to Queenstown or something.
I think that is a big barrier of it, right? Like I remember it wasn't until sort of lockdowns and stuff that we ended up going down south more. But that would always be the thing, like, oh, $1,000 return to go to Queenstown? Nah, that's stupid. Like, rather save up and go to Europe or something like that.
Yeah, but hey, maybe we can, drive.
Oh, yeah, true. That's another good point.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your upcoming events, is this ultra running something that you see yourself getting deeper into, or is this just another ultra event you wanted to tick off? Like, what's the thoughts for upcoming events?
No, this has definitely taken hold a bit more. And just these last 4 days even has made me realize, yeah, that those sort of trails and mountains is amazing.
Yeah.
Not only for training, but if you can do events on that sort of terrain as well, then yeah, it's pretty cool. So
Hmm.
that'll definitely stay. And then yeah, I'll still be doing some triathlon stuff over the New Zealand summer just because those events are there, and yeah, jump back in with not too much specific work and see how we go.
What are some of the big trail events or ultra marathon events that you've kind of got your eyes on?
Well, eyes on and an entry ticket to Cocodona 250 next
Ah,
May.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
So 250 miles.
Oh, that's when you said 250, I thought Ks, but no, miles. That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
point to point across the Arizona desert.
Fuck.
So that's 401 Ks non-stop. Obviously,
That's insane.
there'll be some sleeping and stuff. So I haven't thought too much about that until I get home from UTMB.
Yeah, yeah.
Because yeah, I just wanted to focus on this for now. But I have got an entry, and that will be the big one for early mid next year.
Oh, that's epic, man. Man, that's gonna be like the direct contrast to running in the mountains, right? Because would that be so that'd be desert, but is it at altitude or
Yeah,
no?
so they've even got like you crest a lot of mountains as well,
Oh,
and
right.
I think they've got snow at the top of some because and then you've got 40 degrees down the bottom as well, so you're getting a bit of everything for that.
Man. What do you think it is like? It's kind of a similar question again, but like because you're wanting to really go down this ultra marathon path, like what do you think it is about the ultra running stuff that really pulls you in?
I think just surprising yourself about what you can do.
Yeah.
Um, and just by going a little bit longer, a little bit harder terrain, or that sort of thing, and then just working out a training plan, a training block. Yeah, you get quite a bit of satisfaction out of that. Not only for me, but it just backs up my theories, which helps with my coaching, and then can impart some of that on the athletes that are doing similar 100 milers, 100 Ks, and that sort of thing.
Because I was just thinking, like the world we live in now, it's so easy to avoid discomfort, and
Mm.
like our I don't even know how to describe it. Like our scope for or our capacity for discomfort is so low now. Like we get everything handed to us on a plate. We could just sit down all day just scrolling on our phones if we wanted to and like order Uber Eats and like never have to get off the couch. Whereas like you actively seeking discomfort, I think it is just it's so interesting, man. Like what is it about the discomfort that you enjoy, or what is it that you get out of seeking such a physical challenge?
Yeah, good question. Like I think, like you say, the world is pretty soft at the moment, and I
Mm,
think just normalizing the stuff I do, and I think that helps where I'm interacting with my athletes and my family and close mates, the most, and most of them are into the similar sort of stuff. So I guess
mhm.
like I'll go and do that 100K run. It's like, yeah, you get a few thumbs up on Strava. It's like, yeah, cool. It's just gone and done that.
Yeah.
So I think just normalizing that is quite cool, and it makes people, I think, step up their game as well. It's like, if
Hmm.
he's just doing that on a Saturday afternoon, then hey, I can go and do a marathon.
Hmm.
So I think if that can help motivate people, then that's really cool.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, And what
Yeah,
else was the question?
absolutely, man.
Can't
Oh,
remember
just
there.
like what yeah, what you get out of actively seeking discomfort. So like empowering or encouraging others, that's a massive one. What about anything like as an individual? Is there like, it's not an easy thing you do, like actively seeking that discomfort. Like what is it that pulls you in about it?
Yeah, I think it's just that personal drive and challenge of,
Mhm.
um, yeah, like I'm not proving to anyone else what I can do. It's just sort of me thinking up a cool event or a new challenge, planning it, doing everything I can to succeed.
Mhm.
And I think the, I guess, motivation and drive just keeps building as you tick off one thing. You're like, shit, you can do that. What's next? What's
Mhm.
sort of the next thing? So yeah, normalizing doing hard shit, and then
Yeah,
if
yeah.
other people see that, then that might make them, even if they're doing half or a quarter of the distance that I'm doing, it's still way above what the general population is doing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, you'd be inspiring so many people. Even like me personally, like I see your stuff on Strava or Instagram. I'm like, fuck, this guy's doing some crazy shit, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I might get into some trail running, and I go for my 12K run with 300 meters elevation gain, and then I see your one where it's like 2 hours and 2,000 meters of elevation gain. But like, even speaking like from my perspective, like you definitely like inspire me to want to do more. And like, no doubt there's so many people, like not even your athletes, that you would be inspiring just by leading from the front and being the
yeah, and I think
example.
that's it. Like, and even if it's a handful of people,
Yeah.
or thousands, then that's really cool. And then if they step it up, then that roll on effect of them um, showing their friend group,
Yeah.
family, what they can do, and normalizing that, and then it's just that whole roll on effect of, yeah, building
Mm.
some other animals out there who can do shit.
Smash out 100-mile races easy,
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
nothing, because it's just you can just do that naturally, right? No
Oh,
training or anything.
exactly.
Some
Yeah,
people just are just lucky, right? Just lucky.
exactly. That's it.
Yeah, man. And like speaking to that positive kind of roll on effect, like I've seen it. Say like my niece, she's 15 and she's been going to the gym for a few years, and it was my brother who, when I was 4 years old, bought me a 2 kilo dumbbell or something, for my
Yeah,
fourth
yeah.
birthday. And so it's amazing, like that idea of being the catalyst for a positive snowball. Because, like, say, I don't know, for you, if you didn't find something like this, what do you think life would potentially look like for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you look at the general population, and it's a pretty sad existence for a lot of people out there.
Yeah,
I mean, they may look at me and think you're nuts. I'd hate to do that.
yeah,
But hey, they can't bag it until they've tried it, and I guess a lot of them haven't tried it, so they don't know. So it's trying to explain to people who automatically jump on with you're nuts or I hate that. Then
yeah,
yeah, there's got to be a different process for them, but just starting small, I guess, and
yeah,
getting, yeah, showing
yeah.
what the human body can do.
Exactly, man. I mean, one thing, like when I think about like the general pop versus like the crazy stuff that you do, it's almost like we use our phones and like watch screens and all this stuff to get like that dopamine hit or the positive like affirmations and stuff. But I think it was like Huberman says, if it gives you positive emotion with zero effort, like if you get dopamine from zero effort, it's probably bad for you.
Yeah,
Whereas like
yeah,
your lifestyle and what you strive for is the exact opposite. If you get positive emotion from things that are very difficult, then it must be good for you, which makes me think, the positive impacts on mental health and well-being and all that kind of stuff from striving for these difficult things. It must be massive. Like, would you say that's true? Like, it's
yeah, definitely. And I
beneficial.
think it crosses over to all other areas of life as well. It's
Mm,
like, if you're in hard situations, whether it's, anything to do with work or just decisions you have to make or things you need to do, you can look back at certain points, certain events, training blocks, and think, right, is it hard? Was that harder? There's different different hards, but you can still mentally process things in the same way, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that almost like that transfer effect, right? Of like you have the data of, yes, I have the ability to push through difficult situations. This might be, I don't know, work or friends or family,
Yep.
but I have this data from these physical things. Therefore, I have the ability to push through
Yep.
challenging things.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
Mm,
that, yeah, you build on that in different areas of life as well. And that can cross back to training as well.
yeah, man. Yeah, that's such an interesting way of putting it. I'm just like a huge advocate when it comes to fitness and the implications or the positive implications it can have on other areas in your life. It's so easy now to look at fitness as being the 30-minute weight training session I do and that's it, or the 30-minute run that I do, and look at it in so much isolation. But like you say, it can have a massive snowball on other
Yeah.
areas of your
And I
life.
think it's not, everyone doesn't need to be doing 20 hours a week and 140 Ks. But hey, if you're doing nothing and you can step that up to doing 30-minute runs a week, then hey, that's bloody awesome.
Yeah,
And such a great start. And yeah, if you do that, I guarantee you're going to feel better. You know, any improvement or any progress forward is just going to, same thing, build that snowball effect of, yeah. And if you start getting into running, then your nutrition will improve, generally your sleep, and mental health improves as well.
hmm,
And it's almost just people need a bit of a boot up the ass to get started
yeah.
because they don't know how shit they're actually feeling until they're through that other side.
Yeah,
And yeah, you just look at some sad looking people out there and in bad state, and it's like if you just grind for a few months, you don't know how good it can be.
yeah. It's like the positive emotion is on the other side of the thing that you don't want to do, right? So if
Yep,
you don't want to do it, then more often than not, it's probably going to be the thing that you need to do.
exactly. And deep down, I
Yeah,
think people know that, but yeah, whether the world's just getting a bit soft or there's just too many excuses or ways out nowadays. Yeah,
yeah. I just think it's too easy to not have to engage in anything difficult. Like you
yep,
actively have to seek it now. Like you have to go
yep,
for a run or you have to go to the gym or whatever it is to get that discomfort. It's not like I have to walk 5Ks to get my water.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
just
yep.
get it all to you. When it comes to starting out, maybe like let's say maybe just running as an example, seeing as that's what we're talking about. When it comes to starting out on some kind of running endurance journey, how do you typically recommend people begin, assuming that they're like not injured or anything like that? Like, how do you recommend people start?
It's just moving. It's just not even thinking of it as training, just getting out to a trail and run some, walk some, just move, for half an hour, whatever it
Mhm.
is, every second day for a few weeks. And if that's good, everything's feeling good, then just bump it up a bit more. And, the first few months doesn't even have to be training. It's just moving, conditioning, getting the blood flow, and just seeing how you feel when you're out there. And after you do a session, how you feel. Guarantee it's better than before you started.
Yeah.
And I think same thing. It's just you just got to start. You know.
Mm. Yeah, and I like that idea of not making it like this is your training session. It's like just get out and have a go, because then it's more of, I don't know, I suppose just like a fun thing to do
Well, and you
as
can't
opposed to
you
like
can't fail it. If I say go out for
true.
30 minutes, run some, walk some, you can't fail that. If you
Yeah,
run 1 minute and walk 29, hey, good, session's complete. But if I
yeah,
say you go out and you've got 8 by 1K at 4:30s with a 20-second walk, it's like, yeah, that's way down the line when you've got plenty of base and you've got some goal events coming up and that sort of thing. But for the people that just need to get started, it's just moving, just starting.
yeah. What do you think are the most common barriers for that stage of someone's journey? Would it just be like the mental aspects of like just getting out and doing the thing?
And people just start way too hard. Like they'll go and try and run 5Ks full speed, and then they're fucked for a week and think, oh,
Yeah.
I hate running.
Yeah,
Whereas,
running's bad for the body.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then they'll wait for 3 weeks and do it again, and same thing.
yeah,
Whereas, yeah, you walk for 20 minutes a day for a week, and then jog for 15 minutes every third day for a week, by 3 months down the track, you haven't just had 3 shit 5K runs and feel real crap. You've built into it, and now you can run 10 or 15Ks a few months down the track. And same thing, you're on that momentum wheel of improving. So I think most people just, start too hard, it's sore, and then they have to have a week off to recover. And then when they start again, it's too hard, and it's just that cycle. Or they'll do it 2 or 3 times, and it's like, nah, running's not for me. And it's like, well, there's more ways to skin the cat.
Yeah. But it's probably that whole, I don't know, social pressure thing again. We're like, oh, I can't run any less than 5K because my mates on Strava will be like, oh, why are you running? What are they going to think?
Yeah. So I think for a lot of people as well, it is that social side where you just need to, the first 3 months, don't even tell anyone, give me a call, I'll write you out a program. Don't even tell your family. And then 3 months down the track, then when you're getting into things, you've got that confidence, you're going, then and then you're away. It's almost like
that's a good point.
You're hiding, not hiding, but there's no need to tell people, because then, especially if your friend group, if you're the only one who wants to start running, everyone else will just pull you down because they don't want to do it. They'll feel bad. So I think just do it for yourself. And don't need to tell the world until you can show the world.
Until you're doing the UTMB.
Exactly. Like, where'd this guy come from?
Yeah, what the hell? When did you get into running? You're doing the UTMB. Yeah, man. Oh, that's really solid advice. Man, I appreciate your time today. I don't think, just consulting my little list of questions, I think we covered everything, man. I just, was really keen to just do that deep dive into the UTMB, and I thought it was interesting how much of a contrast it is to doing the flat run around the track. But I just, I found it like super informative getting insight into that, because I haven't chatted to you properly since you did your
exactly
track running as well. But all the best, man. I'm going to be watching keenly. Oh, actually, speaking of, is there like any like live stream or tracker?
There's live tracking and that sort of thing. I'll chuck up on social media the links and that sort of thing next week. But there should be plenty of following ways to follow. And I'll keep chucking up some cool videos from these epic runs.
Do you think you'll do the UTMB with your like your 360 can that you got?
Nah.
Wasn't. I thought like maybe you were gonna like run with that like at some points.
It'd be cool to have just for certain points, but carrying it in the pack, like I've got a pretty bruised rib because it sits down here. And I've taken it out for the last few runs, so it's a bit heavy, and we're not there to video shoot on race day.
Not there for the likes. Just there to get it done. No, that's cool, man. I appreciate your time. And if anyone wants to check your stuff out, Instagram, right, is the best place for people to
generally.
To check you out.
And then everything else links from that. So
yeah, easy, man. Thanks heaps, and all the best.
Cool. I'll chat to you after.